Hello friends, welcome to Star Explainer. Tales of Herding Gods Part 371 explains based on novel. So let's start explanation. The nine-headed phoenix flew off the ship, and with its wings stretched through the sky, it protected the whole ship and withstood this blow head-on. It was THG channeling her magic power from the primordial realm, saving them. Everyone who had flown upwards on the ship bumped into the wings of the nine-headed phoenix, which were extremely soft and gentle, and thus they didn't get injured from the fall. The pulses from the heaven bell were getting stronger, and the phoenix ship was now flying unsteadily, barging ahead through the blood rust zone. The ship brushed past pieces of land, even crashing against the destroyed stars and into a piece of land. On the ancient broken pieces of land in the blood rust zone, the prehistoric ruins suddenly lit up, and rays of light shone brilliantly. Then, a sight that caused everyone's scalp to turn numb emerged before their eyes. On the countless lands, within the innumerous ruins, rays of light burst out, and apparitions of terrifying ancient gods appeared and floated up from within those lands. The length of the blood rust zone was shocking, and it was entirely filled with dark red bodies of stars and broken land. Yet, at this moment, it was dotted with bright lights that lit up the whole stretch. The apparition of the nine-headed phoenix was trying its best to control the phoenix ship and navigate through the area while avoiding the oncoming terrifying attacks. From the beak of one of the phoenix's heads came THG's angry voice. The blood rust zone is dangerous beyond measure. In the celestial heavens, it's even considered a restricted area. Who caused this huge problem? The more than 6,000 gods on board the ship all turned in unison to look towards Qin Mu. They raised their hands one by one and pointed at him. Yang also lifted a wing to point at Qin Mu. The dragon Qin hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he didn't point at Qin Mu. However, the tiny earth count walked out of his earhole to raise a hand and point at Qin Mu. With a solemn expression, he mooed. The dragon Qin hurriedly shushed him. You can't speak nonsense. The spirit pills are all forged by Cult Master. If you point nonsensically, Cult Master won't feed you. The tiny earth count put down his hand, turning around and walking back into the earhole with a lowered head, looking as though he had done something wrong. Qin Mu instantly felt like he had just been isolated. He stood there without a change in expression, but he felt uneasy in his heart, fearing that he would be thrown out of the ship by the enraged crowd. Celestial Venerable Mu, I will only help you out this once. Don't expect me to save you again next time. The nine-headed phoenix apparition pushed the phoenix ship to its limits. However, the blood rust zone was now like a pot of porridge that was spilling over, and from within the innumerous imposing rays of light emerged gods, and devils of various shapes and sizes that bore some resemblance to the ancient gods. They all reached their hands out, nearly making the blood rust zone overflow as they grabbed towards the phoenix ship. The people on the ship all looked for something that they could hold on to so that they wouldn't be thrown off of the phoenix ship that was now tossing and turning about. The apparition of the nine-headed phoenix controlled the ship to weave through at high speeds. However, the blood rust zone was a long stretch where the starry sky extended endlessly, so it was unable to fly out of the area in a short period. Also, the figures in mid-air above the sacrificial altars on the lands were disrupting the blood rust zone. They had alarmed more sacrificial altars in the ruins up ahead, so there were more and more ancient god spirit bodies flying towards them from the front. These ancient god spirit bodies could be considered to have remarkable abilities. The various divine arts they were executing were exactly the great Tao divine arts of the ancient gods, which were extremely powerful. If it was a one-on-one match, THG would be fearless even if she was controlling the phoenix ship from the primordial realm. However, there were simply too many ancient god spirit bodies for her to handle. She could only drive the phoenix ship with all her might, narrowly avoiding the attacks from these massive spirit bodies, and doing all she could to protect the safety of all those on board and escape this area. The Phoenix ship weaved upwards and downwards, and when it was really unable to dodge in time, it would shrink in size to take the ancient god spirit bodies head-on, traveling through the spirit bodies in an act of incomparable courage. It was just that every collision that occurred caused Qi Xiaoyu to weaken a little. After all, she didn't come here personally. Controlling the Phoenix ship from the primordial realm made it difficult for her to react accordingly, and her magic power was also a little weakened. The apparition of the nine-headed phoenix was becoming fainter and fainter. Finally, when her magic power was almost exhausted, the Phoenix ship had, at long last, managed to fly out of that terrifying stretch of the blood rust zone. Everyone on the ship let out sighs of relief. The apparition of the nine-headed phoenix had almost completely vanished. Evidently, in this attempt to save everyone, Qi Xiaoyu had used up a lot of energy, and she was greatly exhausted. Send him to the celestial heavens, but just dump him before the southern heavenly gate. Then, immediately drive the ship back to me and don't ever let me see him again. The nine-headed phoenix left this message behind before automatically dissipating. Qin Mu remained silent with bitterness. Qi Jiui glanced at him. Cult Master Qin, I warned you that the blood rust zone was incredibly dangerous, but you didn't believe me. This is a restricted zone. Even existences at the Emperor's throne realm won't step in here carelessly, much less people like us. Men, come and help Cult Master Qin into the hold of the ship to let him rest. Several gods came forward. Two of them propped Qin Mu up on both sides, while the others followed behind, escorting Qin Mu into the hold of the ship. Qi Jiui was still uneasy. Worried that he would run out, he ordered his men to apply several layers of seals, saying, Cult Master Qin, there are still some dangerous ruins along the way. Just be patient for a few more days. When we reach the celestial heavens, I'll let you out. Yang Er asked curiously, there are still dangerous areas along the way. How dangerous compared to the blood rust zone? Qi Jiui replied, no less dangerous than here. If we continue ahead for another 2 days, we will reach the place where Light Emperor fell. Light Emperor died in battle there, so it's extremely dangerous, even surpassing this place. Yang Er replied in a serious tone, the gods under you won't be able to trap Young Master. Young Master is proficient in all sorts of skills meant for breaking restrictions. Even though the cultivation of the gods under you are higher than his, he can still easily break through the seals that you have put in place. I will have to be the one who seals him, only then will he be unable to break through them. With that, she added layers of seals onto the door of the hold to prevent Qin Mu from escaping and causing trouble again. From within the hold came Qin Mu's upset and angry voice. Sister Yang Er, you are mutinous. The dragon Qilin hurriedly said, Cult Master, Sister Yang Er is also doing this for your own good. She is just trying to prevent you from getting into trouble again. Next time, Red Deity won't save us, and at that time, we'll really die. Qin Mu raged, saying, Fatty Dragon, you are mutinous too. During New Year's, I will kill you and make a meal out of you. The Phoenix ship increased its speed and traveled on. In the hold of the ship, Qin Mu took out the piece of red creation divine stone. He had yet to carefully inspect this precious treasure after obtaining it. This creation divine stone wasn't big in size, and was likely a broken piece from a complete creation divine stone. Wei Suifeng most likely obtained this treasure after searching through the ruins of the blood rust zone. Wei Suifeng knew of many secrets. This big senior brother had truly gone through great pains while trying to fulfill the criteria of gaining merits. Therefore, him leaving this piece of the creation divine stone for Qin Mu must have some deep meaning behind it. Qin Mu placed the creation divine stone at the heart of his brows. He cleared his heart and mind of thoughts, and his consciousness surged towards it. At this very moment, something strange occurred. The small bump at the heart of his brows suddenly moved abnormally, and a terrifying energy surged through and swept up all of his qi and blood, pushing them towards the heart of his brows. Qin Mu was startled, and his face turned extremely pale all of a sudden. All of the blood in his body was surging towards the heart of his brows, and in a split second, his entire being became emaciated, and he resembled a shriveled corpse with bones wrapped in skin. Crap! He activated his vital qi to control the qi and blood flowing to the heart of his brows, but unexpectedly, it was actually better when he hadn't used his vital qi. When he activated his vital qi, it instantly lost control and flowed towards the heart of his brow as well. This creation divine stone that big senior brother gave me, what is it exactly? Qin Mu felt his scalp turn numb. His emaciated palm was gripping the creation divine stone with all his strength, trying to resist the energy that was coming from the heart of his brows. That energy seemed to desperately want to obtain this creation divine stone, and it was guiding the divine stone to the heart of his brows. This energy was so powerful that it was almost impossible for Qin Mu to hold on to the divine stone. It's not the heart of my brows that wants to obtain this divine stone, it's actually this divine stone that wants to bury itself in the heart of my brows. Qin Mu came to a sudden realization. The energy within his body belonged to himself, there wasn't even energy of the son of Yudu. Ever since he performed the groundbreaking feat of forging a divine soul to let himself be reborn, he had become extremely familiar with the energy within his own body. At present, there was definitely no foreign energy within his body. That being the case, the energy was definitely coming from the piece of creation divine stone. It was the creation divine stone that shifted his qi and blood and his vital qi. This jewel wanted to bury itself into the heart of his brows and become his third eye. Qin Mu resisted it with all his might. He opened his mouth, wanting to shout for Yanga, but he was unable to make any sound. He stretched out his other palm as he trembled, wanting to get hold of something to smash it and alert the dragon Qilin and Yanga, who were guarding his door. However, he was unable to move his body and unable to mobilize any vital qi. Even his primordial spirit was trapped within his body, and he was unable to mobilize it. Suddenly, he felt an excruciating pain at the heart of his brows. The skin there tore open, and a bloody wound appeared. Opposite Qin Mu was a mirror. He looked to the mirror and saw that the wound at the heart of his brows was inside out, but no blood was flowing from it. The little bump in the heart of his brows finally revealed itself. It was an eye that appeared within the eye socket that belonged to his original third eye. His qi, blood, and vital qi surged forth, being sucked in frantically by this eye. Qin Mu was rapidly losing his vital qi, and blood. Although his qi, blood, and vital qi were incomparably dense, comparable to that of a real god, this eye was like a bottomless pit that was impossible to fill. Qin Mu felt great terror within his heart. He had long had some guesses regarding the little bump at the heart of his brows, suspecting that the eye socket had grown another eye after he dug out his third eye. After all, he was proficient in the art of creation, so regrowing a third eye was only too easy. It was just that this little bump hadn't stirred all this time. However, every time he activated the Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, or his vital qi circulated to the heart of his brows, he could faintly feel the vital qi, and blood that flowed into the bump simply vanish. It didn't consume much, and Qin Mu was in a state where his cultivation was growing exponentially after he was reborn, so he hadn't thought much of it. Who would have imagined that when the creation divine stone drew his qi, blood, and vital qi to the heart of his brows, this premature, I would actually devour all of the qi and blood from his body. I won't be killed by my own eye, right? He felt chills down his spine, and was gradually unable to control his palm. The creation divine stone in his hand was getting closer to his third eye. The divine stone seemed to have a mind of its own, and it was desperately trying to get into his forehead to force out his third eye and replace it. Wei Sui Feng, damn you're ***, you always cause me to get into trouble. Qin Mu gritted his teeth, and his palms were trembling. It was getting harder for him to resist the energy coming from the divine stone. His third eye finally finished devouring all of his qi, blood, and vital qi, and was no longer able to obtain any more qi and blood from within his body. It was then that a force of energy burst out of the eye, and a ray of light shone out of it, and onto the blood-colored divine stone. This eye of his was actually trying to absorb the energy from the creation divine stone. My eye is also a monster. Qin Mu quietly scolded. The third eye and the creation divine stone were fighting with one another. One wanted to take away the other's energy, while the other wanted to squeeze the other one out to take its place. Qin Mu moved his other palm, with great difficulty, and slowly shifted it to his own chest to tug down the jade pendant hung around his neck. The jade pendant was the Qin jade pendant. When Qin Fengqing went to Carefree Village, he had handed it to Celestial Venerable Yu and entrusted her to pass it over to him. Qin Mu had it hung on his neck all this time. Qin Mu gripped the jade pendant and slowly shifted it, finally coming near the heart of his brows. With great effort, he resisted the energies coming from his third eye and the creation divine stone, and with great difficulty, he shoved the jade pendant in between the two. This jade pendant was forged from the Horn of Earth Count, so while it looked like a jade pendant, it was actually a piece of vast land that Earth Count had used to suppress Qin Fengqing. With the jade pendant in between his third eye and the creation divine stone, separating the two terrifying energies, Qin Mu was able to loosen his grip on the creation divine stone. His eye and the consciousness were no longer attracted to each other, and only then did he let out a sigh of relief. At this very moment, the creation divine stone suddenly flew out of his hand and collided with the jade pendant. It was so unexpected that he couldn't do anything. Qin Mu's eyes widened. He wanted to grab hold of the divine stone, but it had already crashed into his third eye with the jade pendant between them. Light burst out from the heart of his brows, and the power contained within the jade pendant collided with the creation divine stone and his third eye. In an instant, Qin Mu's consciousness was hit so hard that he fell into a daze, and following that, he fell backwards and became unconscious. Wei Sui Feng, damn you're ***, he scolded right before he passed out, spitting out a breath with great difficulty. We have arrived at the place Light Emperor fell, increase all defenses. From the deck came the shouting sounds of various gods. The dragon Qilin and Yanga, who were both guarding outside the door, hurriedly ran out to view the final battlefield of the Celestial Emperor from the Crimson Light era. Only after the Phoenix ship left the area did they return. This time around, Cult Master was quite well behaved. He didn't have as much curiosity as before. The dragon Qilin laughed. It's truly rare. Cult Master should be kept in like this frequently so that his heart will become tamer. Yanga shared the same sentiments. Qin Mu laid flat in the hold of the ship, motionlessly. His breathing was weak, and at the heart of his brows, the competition between his third eye, jade pendant, and the creation divine stone was still ongoing. After an unknown period of time, Qin Mu gradually woke up. He felt completely exhausted, lacking both qi and blood. His qi, blood, and vital qi hadn't recovered much. He trembled as he raised his hand to touch the heart of his brows. The creation divine stone and the jade pendant were gone. What happened when I was in a coma? He sat up with great difficulty, and faced the mirror in front of him. From his reflection, he saw that he was nothing but skin and bones. The wound in the heart of his brows and the eyelid were sealed, leaving behind a trace of blood. Qin Mu's mind was a mess. He found it hard to mobilize his consciousness and felt that his body had been emptied of vital qi, and his heart was beating weakly, supplying insufficient blood to the rest of his body. His limbs were cold as he painfully searched his Dao Tai sack for spirit medicine. After a long time, he found the herbs he needed. With great effort, he used his remaining vital qi to refine them into spirit pills. His control of vital qi wasn't like before. When he was refining the pills, the cauldron exploded, destroying the pills. This hadn't happened since he mastered the art of healing. He had learned the art of healing from apothecary, and it was only during his time in disabled elderly village that his cauldron exploded. Now that his cultivation was profound, he would succeed every time. An exploding cauldron was something that couldn't possibly happen to him. His exhaustion was too great, so his control over his corporeal body, vital qi, consciousness, qi, and blood was worse than before, not even comparable to his teenage years. With his art of healing and art of creation, he was able to recover as long as he didn't die from his injuries. Now, he was exhausted to the point that he was unable to use his art of creation. Even refining pills to heal his injuries was an extremely difficult task for him. Big senior brother, this divine stone you left for me has caused me great trouble. Wei Suifeng left behind the creation divine stone for Qin Mu's benefit. However, Wei Suifeng's plan didn't factor in any unexpected changes, and now Qin Mu had some complications in his situation. The heart of Qin Mu's brows had an additional eye, and before Qin Mu could discover the marvels and secrets of this eye, the creation divine stone wanted to replace it, causing him to be tormented terribly. Qin Mu composed himself and tried to refine the pills again, taking extra care this time, and managing to refine one cauldron of spirit pills. He grabbed the pills and swallowed them in one large mouthful, then utilized his remaining vital qi to catalyze the medicinal energy. After some time, his bone marrow began to create blood, and the blood in his heart gradually increased. His complexion recovered slightly, and he was slowly regaining his vital qi. He continued to refine a few more cauldrons of spirit pills, improving his depleted blood levels to 40%. Then, he refined spirit pills that replenished the vital qi, recovering some of that as well. He struggled to get up. His body was still weak and shaky, but unlike before, his face had more color. However, he was still very skinny. Where did my jade pendant and that creation divine stone go? Could it be they squeezed out the eye at the heart of my brows? His scalp turned numb, and his heart quivered slightly as he tried to open the third eye at the heart of his brows. There was no eyebrow at the heart of his brows, only two thin pieces of an eyelid. The eyelid slowly opened, revealing an eye. Qin Mu carefully examined the eye in the mirror, and saw that its structure was different from his normal eyes. Although his third eye was still made of flesh and blood, the pupil wasn't round but hexagonal. It wasn't black in color, but a vermilion red hexagon-shaped eye pupil. This piece of creation divine stone didn't squeeze out my eyeball. Instead, it merged with it. But where is my jade pendant? Qin Mu continued to examine the eye in greater detail. The eye's iris was actually round, but the pattern within the iris looked like a path of unbroken chains of mountains. Qin Mu shook his head. The pattern of a normal iris was supposed to look like a fan of leaves, but his iris pattern formed the word Qin. My jade pendant has also merged with my third eye. He composed himself and executed the Overlord Body 3 elixir technique. He organized his disorderly consciousness, planning to recover some of his cultivation, so that he could use the art of creation to increase his qi and blood. Just as he executed his Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, he unexpectedly felt a sudden surge in his consciousness as it flowed through his third eye. It strengthened substantially, becoming 10 times stronger than before. Hum! A thick and heavy circular ring appeared behind his head, created by the flow of his vital qi. It whistled as it revolved. His consciousness was strengthened after it passed through his third eye. This caused the circulation of his overlord body 3 elixir technique to suddenly increase, forming the strange phenomenon behind his head. Qin Mu was stunned. He felt that the vital qi of his spirit embryo divine treasure was like tide water, ebbing and flowing along with the circulation of his overlord body 3 elixir technique. His vital qi was increasing rapidly. Not only that, the stars in the sky seemed to breathe. On the tiger-shaped spirit platform, the spirit embryo was inhaling and exhaling, while below its feet, Yudu and devil qi swirled and surged, much like the breath of a giant god. The entire spirit embryo was like a giant chest, breathing in and out. His vital qi and consciousness increased and recovered rapidly as his overlord body 3 elixir technique circulated. However, he could still feel this eye swallowing up his qi, blood, and vital qi, except that it wasn't as ferocious as before. This is the use of the third eye. As Qin Mu continued to execute his overlord body 3 elixir technique, a circular ring of vital qi slowly materialized behind the head of the spirit embryo within the divine treasure. As his technique circulated, the primordial liquid formed a fog. His refinement speed greatly increased, and the fog of primordial liquid rapidly nourished his body and replenished his qi and blood. However, the newly created qi and blood were drawn away by the third eye. Above, the sky was filled with stars. Below, Yudu was becoming deeper. At the same time, the tiger-shaped spirit platform grew steadily. After an unknown period of time, his vital qi and consciousness recovered to their peak conditions and were still increasing. However, his qi and blood were still depleted. His spirit embryo divine treasure was still expanding. More and more stars appeared in the sky, and the Yudu underneath his feet continued to grow wider. He originally thought that his spirit embryo divine treasure had reached its peak. However, as his spirit embryo divine treasure expanded, he realized he was far from unleashing its potential. The lake formed by the primordial liquid was gradually shrinking. Initially, he projected that the primordial liquid would be completely refined in 10 years. At this rate, however, he predicted that it would only take a few months. Except that my eye is already grown, so why does it still want to devour my qi and blood? Qin Mu executed his consciousness and channeled it into the heart of his brows, transforming it into a tiny person, as he flew into his third eye. The space inside the eye was frightening. It was the vast and wide Qin-word land, which contained plenty of overlapping mountain ranges that went up and down irregularly as they formed a huge word, Qin. This was just a piece of the Horn of Earth count. From afar, it looked like a round-shaped piece of land. It was these unbroken chains of mountains that formed the pattern within the iris. And the creation divine stone was embedded precisely in the center of the Qin-word land. This piece of divine stone was incomparably huge, displacing a large piece of land from the center of the Qin-word land. It was lodged within a deep valley, and around it, consciousness and land connected together like pieces of glowing chains, locking the creation divine stone in place. The Horn of Earth count formed the iris of his third eye, while the creation divine stone formed the pupil. His vital qi and consciousness were circulated here, moving around the Qin-word land like clouds, and causing rapid changes to the sky that were difficult to predict. Qin Mu didn't expect this, and neither did Wei Suifeng, who left him the creation divine stone. I wonder if the changes are for the better or worse. He had some worries in his heart. He searched around with his consciousness, and saw his surging qi and blood being swallowed up by the creation divine stone. It's this stone robbing me of my qi and blood. Qin Mu's consciousness flew into this crystal. Red light permeated the inside of the crystal, making it difficult for one to get their bearings. Qin Mu's consciousness had been flying within the crystal for a long time and hadn't discovered the end of it. He stopped suddenly, quietly feeling where his qi and blood were flowing. He then followed the direction of the flow and moved forward. After an unknown period of time, Qin Mu's consciousness stopped. Within the red light sat a huge sacrificial altar, and wiggling on the altar was a piece of flesh and blood, which looked like some strange gigantic beast. The one that stole my qi and blood wasn't my third eye or the creation divine stone. The culprit is this unknown creature that was hidden within the divine stone, which plans to use my qi and blood to be reborn. Qin Mu's heart jumped. He then moved forward slowly. The piece of flesh and blood on the altar seemed to have realized his presence and stopped wiggling. Qin Mu narrowed his eyes. Suddenly, that lump of flesh and blood opened up, revealing a scarlet eye that scanned its surroundings. Qin Mu immediately dispersed his consciousness, avoiding the strange creature's sweep. The flesh and blood then closed up, covering the scarlet eye and continuing to swallow Qin Mu's qi and blood. In front of the mirror on the ship, Qin Mu's expression was grim. There was some kind of monster hidden in the creation divine stone that Wei Suifeng had left him. Relying on the creation divine stone to hide, the monster was stealing his qi and blood. The sacrificial altar looked rather familiar, like the prehistoric sacrificial altar in the blood rust zone. His aim is to steal my qi and blood and borrow my consciousness to construct his corporeal body. In that case, the creature hidden in the creation divine stone should be a master of creation from prehistory. Qin Mu steadied his qi and blood so as not to alarm the creature in the creation divine stone. He thought, the blood rust zone was a place where the ancient gods battled the masters of creation from prehistory. This particular master of creation was killed by the ancient gods, but he didn't completely die. I believe he used his last ounce of power to hide within the fragment of the creation divine stone. He paced around, deep in thought. Big Senior Brother was the one who found this crystal. As he was too powerful, the creature didn't dare to cause trouble. Because of that, Big Senior Brother thought that this divine stone didn't contain any danger, hence he left it to me. However, my cultivation is weaker, so when I experimented with the creation divine stone, the creature tried to steal my qi and blood to be reborn. In the end, he was thwarted by my third eye and didn't succeed. He gradually pieced together the truth. When I was using the jade pendant to separate the creation divine stone and the third eye, the divine stone unexpectedly flew out of my hands and collided into the jade pendant, sending me reeling. That should have been the work of this master of creation. He could have taken over my third eye and completely stolen my qi and blood. However, he didn't expect that this jade pendant was a seal that Earth Count personally refined, one used to seal my elder brother, Qin Fengqing, son of Yudu. Qin Mu's eyes flickered. When he crashed into Earth Count's seal, he was unable to escape. Hence, he simply stayed on, stealing my qi and blood secretly. Every time I execute the Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, and when consciousness flows through the third eye and moves past the creation divine stone, he takes a portion of this consciousness for his sacrificial altar. He is gathering his power, waiting to be reborn. Having survived for so long, he must be some important figure among the masters of creation. If he manages to steal enough qi and blood, together with the creation divine stone's mysterious, but marvelous effect, he could be reborn within my eye. In that case, Qin Mu's third eye was getting brighter and brighter. How do I kill him completely? He stopped his footsteps. From the way the master of creation stole his qi and blood, even if he didn't have a corporeal body, Qin Mu was unable to match up to him. At that time, Qin Mu was unable to control his qi, blood, and vital qi. If he didn't have his third eye, he would definitely have died. Now, the creation divine stone was merged with Qin Mu's eye. Together with Earth Count's seal, the creature wouldn't be causing trouble for a while, and could only slowly steal Qin Mu's qi and blood. This gave Qin Mu a chance to deal with him. Dealing with this master of creation hidden within the divine stone was indeed a thorny issue. The divine stone had been merged with his eye, so if he was careless, he could destroy his own eye. First, I need to control my qi and blood. I also need to stop my consciousness from flowing into the third eye. This will prevent him from recovering his strength. Qin Mu pondered over it carefully. Also, I need to set up a formation within the third eye. The 9 heavens eyes awakening skill that Grandpa Blind imparted to me is insufficient to kill such a frightening existence. I need to devise a new formation. This master of creation died in the blood rust zone, killed by ancient gods. In that case, the great Tao of the ancient gods will be the best way to deal with him. I will start with the runes of the star god's great Tao. He put his plan into action immediately, sealing his qi and blood and mobilizing his vital qi to imprint the runes of the 360 star god's great Tao within his third eye. This wouldn't only deal with that master of creation, it would also raise the power of his third eye, making it transform into his third divine eye. Upon mobilization of the formation, this third divine eye would transform into the grand formation of the star gods, capable of killing strong opponents without difficulty. Within the spirit embryo divine treasure, Qin Mu's vital qi surged forth, becoming a long river under the control of his spirit embryo. It penetrated the Qin word land, imprinting a star god in the sky. Following which, countless runes appeared in the sky, slowly transforming into the first star god. Right at this moment, an ancient and mysterious consciousness rippled within his mind. Hold on. Part 371 end here. Thank you for watching.